And we're live.
With Paranormal Spirits, place we come to get our booze on. We talk about the booze, and I get to do that with all my booze. I'm Mike Black. To my left, my lovely and delicious wife, Alyssa Black.
Hello.
Oh, mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm not lovely right now. You don't like me right now.
It's because you're trying to irritate me. That's why.
It's
You're
my
picking at me.
job.
So tonight we have a story about the hauntings associated with a serial killer and the 30 plus probably guys that he killed. 20 or 19 actually, of which he dumped right behind his house. But before we do that, let's talk about all the places you can find us. And you can find us on YouTube. If you're listening on a podcast right now, we're at 3B Paranormal Spirits on YouTube. If you go to Facebook, we are at Booze with Benefits. That's BOOS Booze. If you come check us out on Instagram or TikTok or X, you can find us at paranormal_DASH_spirits. And you can also find us at our website, and that's paranormal-spirits.com. And that's a landing page for us. You can go to all of our sites, and we have our liquor reviews there. We also have Boozy's Boutique, and Boozy's Boutique is our swag store where you can find our coffee mugs and coffee cups and beanies and Boozy's koozies and dad caps and racerback tees and regular tees and all kinds of good stuff there. So that's like I say, that is our swag store. If you want to read about all of our different liquor reviews for the liquors that we drink here while we're on the show, you can go there, and there are full reviews on the liquors. Here we just say, hey, tonight I'm drinking Tequila Ocho, and Alyssa is drinking Lalo. Both are Blanco tequilas, but there we go much more in depth and let you know about it. Spend our hard-earned money so you don't have to.
They're delicious, the both of them.
Yeah, actually.
I prefer the Lalo, but either one of them, you're never going to go wrong.
Yeah, Tequila Ocho is probably, well, no, not probably. It is my go-to tequila now. For if you're wanting a sipping tequila, Tequila Ocho is it.
Lalo is a choice of mine for sure. To sip.
Is it?
Yeah.
More than G4?
No.
So the truth comes out. G4.
No, not more than G4.
Nothing beats G4, does it?
No, G4 is that's my ride or die.
Yeah, G4 is good stuff.
I really do.
And I like it too, but I like this because it has more of the Tequila Ocho has a little bit of bite to it, I think, that I like.
Yeah, I could see that.
It has not a lot, but and it's got a little bit of that jalapeno
Version,
mm-hmm.
You think?
It's got a little bit of peppery.
Tequila Ocho?
Mm-hmm. It has a little more pepper to it than your G4 that you like.
I do love the G4.
So we've talked about our booze, BOOZE, that we're drinking tonight. Let's talk about the BOOS. So if you were here for our last episode of Paranormal Spirits, you heard about Herbert the Pervert, or
Herb the Perv.
Herbert Baumeister, infamous serial killer that disposed of the 19 different bodies that were discovered behind his house, his huge Tudor-style home. And tonight we talk about the hauntings of Fox Hollow Farm, where he dumped all those bodies. So, and this all starts around 1996 at the end of a 16-year killing spree of Herbert Baumeister. He was an infamous serial killer. Like I said, 19 bodies that were discovered on the farm. They have associated him further with what they call the I-70 killer, or the I-70 strangler. And that's another 11 bodies that they found along I-70 there around Indiana, Ohio.
Mm-hmm.
between 1980 and 1991. In 1991, he purchased Fox Hollow Farm, and then he started dumping the bodies there. And so this is a story around the hauntings of that. So in 2006, Rob and Vicky Graves, their two teenage sons, they were tired of living in the city and the fast-paced lifestyle and decided they wanted some property out in the country and wanted to move out into the suburban area around Indianapolis. And they wanted to kind of escape that lifestyle. So they find this beautiful place, this property called Fox Hollow Farms. Huge, sprawling 18-acre estate, Tudor style, expansive mansion. I mean, just expansive. Has a pool down in the basement.
The pictures of it are amazing.
Oh my God,
It's a beauty.
I mean, it looks like something that English royalty would live in.
It truly is
It really is. It's that beautiful. So Robin, Vicky Graves, they're shocked at how affordable this place that they find is, if nothing other than the sheer size of this house and the size of the property. So they start thinking, this might be too good to be true. And if it's on our podcast and it's too good to be true, it probably is.
Yes.
Yeah, it definitely is. But anyway, because at a passing glance, it's absolutely gorgeous. But Rob, it comes to him while they're walking through the property and the house, Rob remembers the name of Fox Hollow Farm from a newscast that he had seen decades ago, or at least a decade ago.
Rob.
And
come on, man.
So he remembers this name and he goes, "Hey, wait a second.
I know that."
So he brings it up to the real estate agent and says, "Hey, dude, this property you're showing us, this didn't happen to be the same property where all the killings took place and the bodies were dumped."
No.
And no, the real estate agent fessed up. He said, as a matter of fact, he said there was a private investor who purchased the estate from the widow of Herbert Baumeister, who was Julia Baumeister, and bought the estate immediately after they had cleared it of the bodies back in 96. It had been completely remodeled top to bottom. Doesn't look anything like it did back in the day, when all this took place and they found all the body remnants and et cetera.
Oh, really? They'd remodeled the whole thing, huh?
They remodeled the whole thing top to bottom. He says that's why it's so affordable, because no one wanted to live there due to the history.
No doubt.
So Rob asked Vicky, he says, "Hey, do you think, this is a great deal on this property? I mean, this is super priced, right?" He said, "Would you mind living here?"
You don't believe in all that ghost shit, right?
Right. And she's like, "Yeah, it's whatever."
No, it's not.
And
I'm going to tell you what, right
seriously.
now. You came at me with that, I would say, absolutely not. And
but
I'm
it's
all
a great
about,
deal.
I know, and I'm all about
You're
a
all
good
about
deal.
the great
I
deals.
am all about the great deals, but I'm also about sleeping. I may not sleep as often as I should, but I certainly am not trying to be haunted by no damn ghosties, especially in that damn pool.
So anyway, Vicky agrees. She says, it's
Vicky.
a great deal. She'll live to regret that.
Yeah, she will.
But ultimately, they decide to purchase a property. Within a few weeks, the family moves in, falls in love with it.
Bless it.
The teenage son that they have love to go running around the woods and and everything, then come jump in the pool to wash off. Well, in doing this, they're tracking in dirt and gravel every time. So Vicky,
bone fragments.
Huh?
Bone
yeah, probably
fragments.
bone fragments. So anyway, Vicky decides that she's going to go down and she's going to vacuum around where the boys are coming in outside right there at the pool room. Because, the pool room is at the basement level, but it's a walkout and you can...
Oh, go in the backyard from it.
From the backyard into the pool. So they walk in and track all the dirt and gravel and everything. So anyway, she starts vacuuming, and all of a sudden the vacuum loses power. So she believes that she's accidentally unplugged it from the outlet, so she plugs it back in, continues to work. Within several minutes, it happens again. Now, she's perplexed by now because, hey, I plugged it in, and I made sure that I didn't pull it this time, but it still came unplugged. So she goes over there, she plugs it back in, and as she's vacuuming, she watches the cord come out of the plug. And it said it looked like somebody had picked it up and thrown it when they pulled it out, like jerked it out, and she wasn't putting any tension on it, so it wasn't her that had done it.
That's weird.
Anyway, she's startled. She drops the vacuum. She's beside herself.
Absolutely.
And she's just like, okay, what just happened? So,
well, what happened?
Well, what happened was the ghost pulled it out. That's what happened. So, anyway, Rob, pardon me, Rob works at a car dealership, and one of his employees is a man named Joe LeBlanc. Now, Joe had been a great employee. I mean, doing great, right? But he has this habit of being late every day.
Damn it, Joe.
I know you can relate to that, right?
I hate that you just said that, but yes, unfortunately, it's a pet peeve of mine. I'm not proud of it at all.
Okay, but anyway, so you and Joe can relate on this.
Got you, Joe.
And you can empathize with Joe here a lot. And so Joe is late a lot.
Fronting me out.
Yeah, I totally did. So Joe explains to Rob that, man, he loves the job.
Bruh. But I can't be on time.
But I just can't make it. I live an hour away. And, sometimes, you know what it's like. You hit traffic, and next thing you know, you're late. So it was getting difficult for him to get there on time. He really wanted to keep the job. Rob is really appreciative of Joe's work and his work ethic and wanted to help him out any way he can.
I know
so
what's coming.
He and Vicky had been talking about renting out the guest house that they have on the property next to their house. And he calls Vicky and says, hey, this guy needs a place to live. He said he would consider moving if he could.
Don't do it, Joe.
To be closer so that he could get to work on time. So next thing you know, seems like a match made in heaven.
Oh, Joe.
And perfect opportunity for everybody. So he moves into the garage apartment that is above the garage and rents it out from Rob Graves. And so a few days later, Joe is assisted by Rob, and they move into the apartment. Took him the whole day to move in. Joe was exhausted, so he decides he's going to retire for the night. He brought his dog Fred with him, so it's just Joe and Fred there. And Joe slips into this fitful sleep, and he is having this vivid nightmare. And he's being chased through the woods there at Fox Hollow Farm. And he doesn't know what's chasing him, but he's terrified, and he's running for his life. This dream is so intense that it causes Joe to sleepwalk. He jumps up and starts running. He runs into a door jamb, bam, hits a door jamb, falls over, hits a glass, breaks the glass.
Oh, no.
He's never done this before. And so anyway, he knocks over the glass shatters, it cuts his hand.
Like a drinking glass, I'm assuming.
Yes.
Okay.
And it wakes him up.
I hope.
So anyway, this is like, he's freaked out. He's like, what the hell?
No doubt.
So it wasn't long after that, a couple of days.
I'm out. I'm going to have to be late, bro. Like.
So Rob, the guy that bought the house, is painting the side of the home, and he's painting it a different color. And as he's painting it, Vicky shows up from work. Now, Vicky works at a hospital, and I forget her position, but like a radiologist or something like that. I forget. Anyway, she came up on him, and he's painting the house, and she remarks, hey, great job, looks great. And she's standing there talking to Rob. And as she's talking to him, out of the corner of her eye, she sees something moving close to the tree line. And she looks over there, and it's a guy in a red shirt that's just standing there. And this guy in the red shirt is looking back at her. She's looking at him. They see each other. Okay. Mm-hmm. They're making eye contact. And Vicky's like, what the heck is this? You know? And so the guy in the red shirt just turns and he starts walking off.
Random.
She tells Rob, hey, come look at this. So he climbs down off the ladder, comes around the corner of the house, and he doesn't see anything. Vicky realized at the moment that he started walking off that she sees this guy in the red shirt, but she doesn't see any legs. So his legs are transparent as she's watching him walk off. It's broad daylight, and this is happening. So it's like,
nope.
She doesn't tell Rob that part of it. Rob's like, you know what? He said, this is a serial killer's home. We're going to have trespassers that come along every now and then.
With no legs?
She didn't tell him that part, remember?
Oh, right.
So he's like, we're going to have people that are checking out the house just because of the novelty of it or whatever.
Little gawkers.
And he said, if you're going to buy a serial killer's home, you're just going to have to learn to lean into it and expect that people are going to sneak on your property from time to time to get a look. So.
Okay. Love that approach.
Back at Joe's place.
Back at Joe's place. At the above garage apartment.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So later that night, Joe is doing dishes in his apartment above the garage area and suddenly hears a series of knocks on his front door. It's like, bam, bam, bam. So Joe yells out, hey, I'll be right there. As he is drying his hands, there comes a second set of knocks. These are even more louder, more aggressive, and hey, you know, I really want you to answer the door. Joe yells back, I'm coming. He thinks this must be Rob or Vicky really needing to talk to him, you know. Mm-hmm. So he goes to the door, and the door, it's still knocking as he's walking up to the door. They're pounding on the door now.
He's going to open this.
He opens the door,
and nobody's there.
And no one is there.
Nope.
So the knocking had actually been occurring when he opened the door. So it stopped immediately as he opened the door. There's no one there. And he's like, what the hell? So he goes outside. He looks around. He looks up to see if somebody's like hanging over the roof and beating on his door.
No doubt.
Because there had to be somebody there, you know, because he's hearing it banging, right?
Right.
So he's thoroughly freaked out at this point. He on his way back inside the house, and he bolts the door and he locks it behind him. And as he's making his way back to the kitchen to finish up the dishes, he looks to his left to his bedroom, and there is a man standing in his bedroom staring back at him. His dog, Fred, begins to growl when he sees this figure. And it was this weird growl Joel said that he had never heard before. And it never heard him make this sound. And he goes in there, turns on all the lights in the bedroom where this guy was looking back at him, and nothing. No one's hiding there. Just nothing. Bedroom's empty. So he's trying to rationalize this, clear his mind. So he decides to take Fred for a walk. And they go outside and they start walking. There's this long winding driveway that leads up to the road from the house. And so they're going down this driveway, and this has become their ritual since he's been there. They do this walk every night. And so
that's a brave mofo.
Yeah, anyway.
And in the dark?
Yeah. So, anyway, as they're walking up the driveway, he looks over at Rob and Vicky's house because he thinks it must have been them that had knocked on his door earlier. and all the lights are out. Nobody's home, or they're had already gone to bed.
No, it was the dude that was in his bedroom. Homie's the one.
So anyway, here's Fred. He's walking along with him, and Fred walks without a leash. Now, he always stays right there with him. And I've seen people do this where they walk their dogs, and their dogs just stay right there. I don't think I've ever had a dog that I would trust without a leash, but anyway.
We don't live in the country either.
Yeah, so this is night. It's no different, and Fred's, walking there with him. And anyway, they've gone out their ways, and they're starting to come back. Well, Fred doesn't listen when Joe tells him, hey, come back. And so the dog is looking at something at the tree line. And he's staring over here, and he starts growling into the tree line. Well, suddenly he bolts in that direction. Fred's going to get him, whatever it was over there in the tree line. Well, this dog is everything to Joe. So Joe just instinctively runs after the dog, and he gets out there, and at the tree line where Fred was running towards, there was a figure standing there, and this guy has on a red shirt. The man turned and moved away from them, but then just disappears. I mean, poof, into nothing, right? Well, Joe catches up to Fred, and he's not acting aggressive at all now. He's calmed down, and because it's just him and Joe there. Well, Joe all of a sudden feels like somebody's watching him, and he turns and looks, and when he turns, this dude in the red shirt is standing next to him.
No.
Joe
loses his shit.
I'm sure he crapped his pants.
Duh. Wouldn't you?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And he beelines it for the house. Well,
I ain't trying to go back in there either.
And Fred is in tow. Fred's right there with him, and they run all the way back.
Poor Fred.
I know, right? So they run into the apartment, they lock the door, and they spent the whole rest of the night literally staring out the blinds and looking for whatever that was.
How about looking behind them for the ghost who's in the damn bedroom?
So the next morning...
Because homie wasn't wearing a red shirt.
The next morning, Joe heads over to Vicky and Rob's house, and he starts telling them what had happened and what he had seen the night before. He tells him about the knocking and the apparition that he saw in his bedroom and the man in the red shirt while he was walking Fred. And as he's recounting this story, and Vicky, she begins to get emotional. She literally starts tearing up, and she tells Joe that she has seen this same guy in the red shirt and points out the window to the spot where she had seen him. This is also the exact same spot where Joe saw him the night before. So anyway, day turns to night, and Joe is truly exhausted now because he's been up the whole night before.
No doubt.
And he decides he's going to forego the walk with Fred, so they're just going to hang out at the house tonight.
Oh, Fred.
They're not going to go chasing red-shirted ghosts through the woods tonight, I guess. And anyway, he's laying there in his bed, and he is jolted alert by this knocking at the door. Joe yells out, "Who is it?" As he makes his way towards the door, doesn't receive an answer back, just more aggressive knocking. The door now is literally shaking in its frame as something is rapping on this door, right? So Joe is terrified, and he's expecting a repeat of the night before. And finally, and I'm telling you, this dude has bigger stones than I do, because finally he grabs the door and slings the door open, and no one's there. And he looks all throughout the yard. No one's out there. And he's trying to see who's knocking at the door. There's no one. Finally, Joe looks at the door, at the outside of the door, and he notices that this knocker, one of those swingy knocker things.
Yes.
This knocker is standing straight up off the door.
Nope.
Not laying his door.
No.
Straight up off the door.
No.
And as he's looking at it,
starts to knock.
bam,
Nope.
it comes down one more time against the door. I'm sure this is where Joe crapped his pants, because this is where I would have crapped my pants.
This is where I'm like, peace out.
Oh man. Anyway, so it slams down into the door, and Joe freaks out. He slams the door shut. He locks it. He's trying to catch his breath. He said his heart felt like it was beating out of his chest.
My heart is.
And he's standing there frozen. He sees the doorknob begin to turn.
No.
Yeah, baby. In the jam, the doorknob is turning.
Peace.
So
out.
And without warning, the door explodes inward. The jam splinters, sending shards of wood out like missiles. And again,
somebody is mad.
Nobody is at the door. Now, after a moment of this frozen terror or whatever,
oh god,
Joe runs outside and into the front yard apartment screaming. Yeah. Searching all around for who could be doing this. And after several minutes, he stares back into the house. To the open door, he sees a man dressed in white. And it said he was in a white shirt.
And the angel Gabriel came to him.
Right. And the guy says he looks like he is soaked from head to toe in water. And he's screaming in this muted voice, as if screaming out from underneath the water.
Oh, he's drowned in the pool.
So, anyway, this figure charges at Joe.
I wonder if Joe looks like Herb.
I don't know. No, I don't think so.
Really?
Not to me. I've seen both of them in pictures, and no, neither one looks. They do not look similar to each other.
Maybe Chuck lived.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe you look like Chuck. I don't know. So the figure standing in the doorway charges for Joe, and then as he charges, just disappears into mist, and he's gone.
This is something like out of a movie.
Man. So anyway, Joe, he absolutely freaks out, runs over to Rob and Vicky's house. Fred in tow again.
Poor Fred.
I know, right? So Joe shares this with Rob and Vicky, and so they're past the point of rationalizing this. So
okay,
now
good. I'm glad we're coming.
So
to.
Rob hasn't seen anything yet that he admits to, but I think maybe Rob saw something too, because you could tell in the interviews that I've seen of Rob. I think Rob has seen something. Rob knew, and Vicky for sure knew. She saw it.
She saw it. Yeah.
Joe has seen it. Fred has seen it.
Fred is my spirit animal.
So. Anyway, they get over there, and they're not even trying to tell themselves that this is not a haunting. They're trying to tell themselves
it's not evil.
Right. This must be the victims of Herb Baumeister, and they're just reaching out, wanting help, because of somehow Herb, by killing him, has trapped them here in their ghostly or spectral state.
Well, as much as I love that rationalization, they're mad too. Apparently, they trying to kill all y'all. Yeah,
I'm sure. So I'm sure they are pissed. They got getting killed like that.
Yeah, no doubt.
And then dumped, and they're not buried in a proper grave, or they weren't. A lot of them haven't been identified at that point.
Right.
They're just trying to make it make sense at this point. So they start looking at these victims, and they decide, they find one, and Joe goes, "Oh my God, that's the guy that I just saw." It was one of the victims. It was posted on a website that had all the victims on there. And one of the victims that was on that website is the one that Joe saw in the doorway, all dressed in white and soaked in water. Oh, and starts running towards him. That guy.
The one that went poof.
Right. So by this time, they believe that they're experiencing the results of all the killings, and nothing to do with Herb at this point. It's just victims, and that their energy is stuck here like in this endless loop, just replaying their final, tragic moments. Joe refuses to return to his apartment that night. Rob and Vicky, being the good landlords that they are, agree that Joe should spend the night, And that's when they started scouring the internet for any kind of information that they could find. And this information scares them, but at the same time, it's kind of reassuring because now they know that they're dealing with something that probably isn't malevolent, or, they're dealing with the victims here. So anyway, after several uneventful days, Joe finds himself compelled to walk around the property with Fred. He doesn't know why. But this time he's doing it in broad daylight.
Yeah, no doubt.
As he makes his way with Fred to the area where both he and Vicky had seen the man in red on separate occasions, just past the tree line on the walking path, Joe stops and sees what appears to be a bone. He believes that it's impossible that such a bone could have been missed during this massive excavation and search, and extensive searches they've had on the place. Lo and behold, there it is. It was like it was there for him to discover. Joe runs and he grabs Rob and Vicky, says, "Hey, come out here, look what I've seen." And they ended up contacting the lead detective on the Baumeister case and submitted the bone, which turned out to be a human femur bone, and was placed into evidence for analysis. They asked if the investigator would come out to the property and explain to them just where the things had taken place, where the bodies were dumped and that kind of stuff, just so that they could have a better understanding. And he obliged. Several days passed, and Joe is on his computer checking his emails, and he begins hearing this scraping sound coming from the kitchen. And it sounds like almost like a metallic sound. So he goes into the kitchen, and after walking in there, he sees all of his knives pulled out of the butcher block, or the knife block, and laid out neatly across the sink, all in a row.
No.
Yeah. So.
Nope. I'm out. Bye.
He looks around and he can see where the knives there's fresh cuts along the wall. And he's glancing around the room and he spots these cuts in the wood near the cabinet. He starts to try to figure out the mystery. He takes out his phone. He begins recording, asking probing questions to whoever or whatever could be there in hopes of helping him in any way that he can. So he begins by asking a series of questions. Doesn't get anything. Fred begins to growl, and it's the same eerie kind of growl that he had
when he saw Homie in the bedroom. When he
saw the red-shirted dude out at the wood line or the tree line. He thinks it's got to be something here because Fred doesn't do this kind of sound unless there's
a spirit
shit going on, right? Exactly. So he's talking to this thing, and he's got this app on his phone he's using to record with. So he gets done and he downloads it to his computer, and he starts listening to it. And he did receive one response. Uh-oh. When he asked him, who was it that was doing this? And he said, the voice back says, the married one.
The married one.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Do you remember all the victims that were killed?
Or boys and men. Gay men.
That were single gay men. The only one involved in all of this that was married was Herb. Herbert the pervert. Baumeister was the only one that was married.
Damn, so he's like, get out my house.
So.
But he wasn't killed there either. That's crazy. So he came back to the house.
But remember, there was the killing, or the way Herb died was very ritualistic.
He may have died at the house. We don't know he didn't die at the house. We just know he was found.
Well, they found him in Canada.
That's true.
The day before, so it'd been hard to make that.
That's true.
Okay. So they found him in Canada in this ritualistic murder, or it was, can't say the S word, but I just did, so I'm going to have to bleep that out. But anyway, so Joe believes that he has heard the married one. So he thinks that it's Baumeister that's actually haunting his garage apartment. Mm-hmm. So he believes that not only the victims that were killed there are trapped within the grounds there at Fox Hollow, but also perhaps the killer himself.
I don't wonder if he's trapped. I wonder if he's choosing to be there.
And he may be. Maybe he's there to keep all of his people that he killed, all the spirits there.
Ugh.
It's pretty messed up. Anyway, but over a period of several months, it's about 6 months, there was dozens and dozens of investigations and several episodes dealing with these real life haunting episodes. An independent film was made and compiled of these investigations. And although this property has changed hands several times since the Graves have owned it and lived in it, this remains one of the most haunted places in the United States, if not the world, because of all the negative stuff that went on there.
So the Graves is moved, huh?
They have moved on. They do not own the property anymore. And, of course, Joe doesn't live there anymore either. But, we talked about in the previous episode the ritualistic way that Herb Baumeister died.
Right.
With where the geese.
The geese were next to him.
Strangled and laid next to him on this mound. There were no footprints leading up to it.
There's no gun. There was no blood.
Nobody saw the gun. There was no blood there. And he was shot with a .357 Magnum.
Through the head.
Yeah.
Forehead. Not even the side of the head. Forehead.
So if anybody knows anything about .357 Magnums that play with guns, you know that's a hell of a handgun. I mean, that's a cannon.
And there's no way that you would be able to hold it in the manner that he would have had to.
Actually, if you took and put your thumb in like this, you would be able to.
But he wouldn't be sitting there without any blood next to. He could have been there next to with all of this because he could have even had funeral makeup and all of that, like prepped himself for it. But there's no way he's going to be bloodless.
Now, someone could have come up and found the gun, took the gun. Somebody walking through the park said, "Oh, there's a gun. What happened to the footprints?"
Yeah.
In one of the EVP sessions, when somebody asked about the skulls, because they only recovered one skull, the way they identified all the different bodies out there was their left thumb.
Right.
That was the way they counted how many bodies
because they didn't have any skulls.
Thumbs do we have?
Right.
Because they didn't have a skull. So there was only one skull that was recovered.
Right.
And that's probably the one that Eric, Baumeister's son, found.
Yeah.
And so I think that was the one. Yeah, it started the whole thing. So if that's what it was, and maybe there was somebody else involved, is what I'm thinking. Anyway, so during one of these investigations, somebody asked, obvious question, where are the skulls?
Where are the skulls?
Because the skulls are missing. Oh, and the videotapes.
That were in the back of the car.
With Baumeister.
Right.
In Canada.
Right.
In
July 3rd
of 96. Or July 2nd when they found him with the videotapes in the back of the car.
Right, and then he was found dead on July 3rd, yes.
And then on the 3rd he was found dead. But the videotapes are gone. So the videotapes are missing. The skulls are missing. And we know that he was videotaping because there were hidden cameras in the pool room where he would choke these guys out.
Right.
So when they asked that question, they said, Chuck has them. So who the hell is Chuck?
Who is Chuck?
Where are the videotapes? So maybe Baumeister had somebody else that was there with him, is what I'm thinking.
Had to have. Well, or he did at the end when he's trying to get rid of everything,
It's just,
like paying somebody
it's just really
to do
weird
it.
because you think of everything that goes into this one. And it's like, there's too many loose ends that don't.
There's a
tie
lot
up.
of loose ends.
They just don't tie up on this. It's not. There's not a nice, neat bow on this one. But
in the investigations, was like, what was the most haunted? The pool.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the pool area, and so of course, everybody's been out there. Ghost Adventures has been out there.
Mm-hmm.
Zach's been out there. I don't remember if he had a Zach attack while he was there.
Need to go watch that one again just to see.
Yeah, I did watch it.
I remember him going out here because I remember that was one of the first times I think I heard about this. And then I've heard it on subsequent podcasts, and I think I've even seen it on like a network television show.
So in researching this, of course, I look at podcasts, I look at Wikipedia, anything that I can find from actual documentation.
Right.
And like I read the whole interview of Julie Baumeister, the police interview. I was able to access that, and so that's where I found out that she didn't sleep with the guy for
6 times.
They've
in
slept
their whole
together
marriage.
6 times in their whole marriage, and he spent a year living in a different part of the house.
Didn't talk to her.
Didn't speak to her for a year. Dude was a nutbag. But
no doubt.
Anyway, in doing all that, I remember looking at all the different podcasts, true crime podcasts and paranormal podcasts for this story, that's why I wanted to do this in 2 parts, with doing all the murders and the true crime for one episode, and then doing the hauntings for the other episode.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just really interesting. And there's one out there. It's Fox Hollow Farm something, but it's the actual Rob Graves produced it with someone else.
Oh, The Haunting at Fox Hollow Farm. That's the one I watched last night.
Okay, so Rob Graves is he produced it with somebody else in conjunction with them, and it's basically, I'm going to be honest, it was hard to watch because
I thought it was hard to watch.
It's just a hodgepodge. There's no storyline. It's just a hodgepodge of all these different investigators. They have a medium, they have a shaman, they have your typical paranormal investigators, and I don't know. It went on and on and on, and it was kind of a collage.
Well, there were just so many.
Yeah, and there was no storyline. It didn't group them together. It was all mixed up, and
you didn't know who was who. It was a mess.
But it was hard to watch, and at least for me.
Yeah.
But the Zach Bagans was pretty interesting because they talked to Vandergraff.
Did they?
The detective. Mm-hmm. Yeah, they talked to him. They talked to Joe LeBlanc. I believe in their investigation, or maybe I might have saw it on another one. A Paranormal Witness is another good one that you can watch, and that's a lot of Joe talking about his experiences out at Fox Hollow Farm. So it's really interesting. But yeah, go check those out, and there's some good watches. Also, I would like to point out, if you happen to have a family member of someone that you suspect could be connected to this case in some way, then you should contact the Hamilton County Coroner's Office at 317-770-4415 and let them know. I know they're still trying to identify they still haven't identified all the bodies. It's really sad. You're really talking about 30 something guys that died at the hands of this dude.
Like 30 years ago. Over 30 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Over 30 years ago.
Yeah. 30 something.
It's just so sad to not know what happened.
It is. It's very sad. So if you have somebody you feel like maybe they disappeared in Indiana or Ohio, and you just happen to listen to our podcast and go, oh yeah, I had a cousin, or my brother or whatever disappeared, then yeah, give them a call. But anyway, that's my story for Fox Hollow Farm for the hauntings. So
I don't want to go there.
No? You don't go hang out there?
No.
Yeah, I don't want to go visit
I
that
don't
one.
want to go. I mean, the house looks amazing. I'm not
It
going to
is.
lie.
Would you live
Like,
there?
Sans the Haints. Yeah. Because that's the thing.
Could you go through and sage the whole
No.
house? And,
No.
And have it blessed? And
Listen, because it's not just the house. It's that whole damn place.
yeah,
Those spirits are so
and
disturbed probably because of how they died, how they were disposed of,
Well,
burned.
we talk about the different kinds of hauntings. You have these intellectual or the intelligent hauntings where they interact with you,
Right.
And you have hauntings that are just residual and it's kind of a loop playing over and over and over. Even if it's just a loop playing over and over and over, I still don't want to see that loop. That is so perverse and
Yeah.
horrible that I don't want to have to. I don't want to experience that.
Like the one that he saw that was like trying to yell like he was, wet and drowning.
Mm-hmm.
He probably got drowned in the pool. Like when he was like in a previous story, how you're talking about how Herb had taken Goodyear.
Yeah, Mark Goodyear.
Goodyear out and
tried to choke him out in the pool.
Yeah, and
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and there's no telling what he did to some of those people.
I know that in the 2 episodes where we talked about our own personal experiences,
right,
during the ghost hunting phase of my life and all that, and I talk about that one place that I wouldn't go back.
Yes,
and that is where the woman was killed by her husband.
Yes.
And I think that's probably a loop. I don't think that's a intelligent haunting. I think that's just something playing over and over and over. I don't ever want to experience that again. That was very traumatic for me.
You mean with her screaming?
Oh yeah.
That's what you mean by a loop. They just do the same thing over and over to people that show up.
Yeah.
For those that
but I would not want to have to.
For me in the back that I don't know exactly what that means.
Nope. Wouldn't want to do it.
Well, and it's just, and it doesn't matter what kind of saging you did to the house. Because, sometimes it's the actual location the building is haunted.
As much blood as was spilled there.
Right. Well, versus the land. And I think here you've got a combination of everything. However many acres this dang farm is. And I think when you had talked about it earlier, it's a lot.
18 acres.
And we don't know if anything even happened in that damn garage apartment, but he got freaking haunted in that. I mean, I would never feel safe. Because it doesn't sound like, and then you've got the married one taking out knives and sharpening it on the wood. No, I'm not having my child there. My animals me and Fred, we out.
No, I wouldn't.
I'm like
that's
Fred.
That's not a place I want to go visit.
Fred is my spirit animal.
There's a lot of places I'd go visit, but that's just not one of them.
I don't want malevolence, and I'm not saying that they were all malevolent, but something there was not happy with those knives. You start talking about knives and weaponry and all this kind of stuff. Did they ever have anybody come out? No one's ever tried to cleanse it that they've reported. We hear all these things about being haunted and all of this, and so they'll have priests and people come out. So I guess since we know what's happened here, there's no mistake.
During the investigations, some of the investigators and the like the mediums and stuff like that, and the shaman. You're like, go to the light, and
oh yeah, I did.
You don't have to stay here and that kind of thing. But no, I wouldn't either.
I mean, I'm not saying it needs to be like it's not like exorcised. I'm just curious if anybody ever done anything like that.
I don't know.
Yeah,
I ain't going there to find out.
I'll drive by, but then I'd be afraid. I'd be having some talisman somewhere, making sure nothing comes into my car when I go past it.
I don't think I would go.
I'll say it. I'll see it from the video.
Anyway, that's the story of the haunting of Fox Hollow Farm. So, I just wouldn't go there.
No,
I wouldn't visit.
I don't think so. That's not for me.
Right.
However, go enjoy some Lalo.
Yeah, go enjoy some
tequila. Is that tequila Ocho, right?
Yeah, that's tequila Ocho. That's the good stuff.
Yes, it is. Check us out. www.paranormal-spirits.com.
Yeah, if you go there, I'm going to put up full reviews of these liquors, along with all the other liquors that we've had on the podcast. So y'all have a good night.
Bye-bye.
Peace. Bye-bye.